Welcome, I'm Rabbi Phil Bressler of Beit Am in Corvallis, Oregon. This is the daily summary video for the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch Yomi Daily Halakha Learning Project, covering the passage from Siman 82, Seif 9, to Siman 83, Seif 2. You can find links to the Hebrew and English text of this passage and to the calendar of upcoming passages in this video's description. We're going to keep talking about carrying from one domain to another, the 39th of the 39 melachot that are prohibited on Shabbat. You need to be careful of actions that are almost certainly going to lead to carrying. So the Kitzur's example is giving food to a non-Jew on Shabbat. So putting it down in front of them is good. Then there's not a direct handoff being made if they take it elsewhere. Remember, both ends of the transfer of something from one domain to another are prohibited, both taking hold of the thing and or picking it up at one end and taking hold of it at the other. But if it's a lot of food and they're not allowed to eat it where they are in your private domain, and they're certainly going to carry it somewhere else, then don't even do that indirect giving, okay? Because that might really look from an outside perspective like you are putting it down for the purpose of being carried. Of course, extenuating circumstances do apply if they're ill, or they're going to get violent if they don't get something from you, or you get the point. One of the biggest challenges with regard to carrying on Shabbat, and I would argue probably the main reason that Eruvin exists at all, is children on Shabbat. So kids can't get far on their own. They require strollers or to be picked up. Even, as the Kitzur notes, leading a child by the hand can be problematic. If their feet break contact with the ground, now you're carrying them. Same thing if they drag their feet, and of course you can't pick them up or push them in a stroller. That's all considered carrying. And when you're outside in a public domain, you can't do that for more than 4 amot. So the Kitzur says to make sure people know about this because they screw it up all the time. Like I said, probably the single biggest reason that Eruvin are called for, and we'll learn about those in a few chapters. Drawing water on Shabbat. If you have a pool or a well within your private domain, it's probably okay to go ahead and get water from there. That's going to be 2 contiguous private domains, but a stream that runs through a private domain is a Carmelite. You can't get water from there. Few final points. Spit and urine count as stuff that can be transferred between domains, so careful where you relieve yourself and where you spit. This may also explain the last seif, number 13, about how it's okay to, in the Kitzur's words, spill dirty water, even though it will run off elsewhere. I think they may be talking about pouring out your chamber pot. That could otherwise make it really hard to relieve yourself in a pre-plumbing society. Moving on to the next Siman, we're going to talk about, well, this one's a hard one to give a name to. Enclosure of partitions around dwellings, I guess. I'm not going to spend very much time here in Siman 83. It's complicated and its application is pretty niche, but the main concept to understand is, right there in the first sentence, fencing an area with partitions to make carrying in it permissible, that is to make it a private domain or contiguous with another private domain. That's only going to work when the area was fenced around for dwelling purposes, like for the purpose of dwelling there. So what is an area that's fenced off for dwelling purposes? I imagine like a fenced off front or backyard, or a place where you hang out, right? Like when the weather's nice, where you cook on your barbecue grill, or you let your dog off your leash. You live there. It's basically part of your home. When the Kitzur says courtyard, this is basically what it has in mind. It's an outdoor extension of your house. You can carry between your house and your backyard on Shabbat as they are considered one contiguous private domain. But areas that are fenced off for other purposes, basically like to guard what's in there, like gardens or orchards, even when they are accessible straight from your house, those are separate domains because they are not for the purpose of dwelling in. If it's big enough, it's considered a Carmelite, in which case you're not only prohibited to carry in and out of there, but even to pick something up and move it more than 4 amot. And if it's small, it's not a Carmelite, so you can carry inside of it, but it's still a separate domain you can't carry into or out of. We'll talk a little bit more about this tomorrow, but that's all for today. As always, our learning is dedicated to Rabbi Shlomo Gansfried, the author of the Kitzur, and the historic Jewish community of Uzhhorod, Ukraine. See you tomorrow.